Hello and welcome to Judgmental Horror Junkies Junk Talk.
Junk Talk.
Thank you. That lovely voice was Goreship, and this is Reno Dino Valentino, and we are here in the middle of the month for our first ever Junk Talk short minisode. To keep you tied over till September 1st when we are dropping Cabin in the Woods. But we're not here to talk about Cabin in the Woods. We are here to talk about a...
You mean October 1st, right? September 1st is when the Collector episode
You are correct. Yeah, September's Collector. My bad, G. Yeah. Well, no. Collector came out 14 days ago. By the way, we're recording this right after the Collector, so hence the confusion. Collector comes out September 1st. This is coming out September 15th. So, until October 1st, when we see you again for Cabin in the Woods.
You were right. I misspoke.
It's all right. This is all... We're leaving all this in, because this is our first time doing this, and we want you to know...
We're getting our bearings.
We want you to know that this is a work in progress. But we're not here to talk about Collector or Cabin in the Woods. We're here to talk about The Dinner After. This was a short that I picked from a company called Altor. And, man... This was a bummer. I like to bring the bummers to you, folks.
Yeah, emotional damage.
Yeah.
A lot of baggage.
Yeah, the director of this was Maddie Crawford. Story by Paul Carey. Let me do the cast real quick. We have Angela is Lucy Doyle. Lauren, who is Fern Deacon. The mom is played by Gina Brooks. And the dad is John Rand. That is our cast. I did not do a synopsis because that's not my bag, bro.
Yeah, that's all. That's a Goreship thing.
Yeah, that's a Goreship thing. Did you synopsis this movie? This short?
I did just for my own notes.
Yeah, I love this man. I
wouldn't,
give us a short synopsis on this short.
A guilt-stricken Angela visits her parents for what at first seems to be a routine family dinner, only for a painful truth to bubble to the surface, descending the evening into a nightmare.
Oh, it's so good. Oh, man. I love this one. I'll give you a little peek behind the curtain. So, as you well know, if you are a longtime listener, whoever picks the movie for the month, the other person picks the short. And Goreship picked the Collector for this month, so I was in charge of finding the short. And I have a list of shorts that I have not used yet. And I was looking through them, and none of them really spoke to me for something to go with the Collector. And I kind of sort of halfway try to make the short semi-connected to the movie, at least in a small way. Maybe it's because it's a polar opposite. Maybe because it complements the movie well. This case, nothing really came out and spoke to me. So I was like, all right, let's start looking. So, I did what everyone does when they're in the mood for a little short horror. I went to YouTube and typed in horror shorts and started adding some different words to see what came up. And I scrolled through, and I swear to God, the first 30 I looked at were 3 minutes long and were just, I'm in my house. Oh, no, so is a monster. And I'm like, yeah, I've seen this too many times. Yeah. We've covered it enough times. I want something different. And I finally found this, which, to be perfectly honest, I don't feel goes with the Collector particularly well, but I just loved it so much, I was like, oh, fuck it, we're doing this. I like it.
It's a parallel. It's two different types of traumas in these movies.
Yeah,
you get the home invasion trauma.
Yeah.
And then you get the dealing with post-death grief trauma.
Oh, man. Yeah. What a way to...
Very metaphorical.
Yeah, what a way to show loss. Man.
Battling the inner demons of your grief-stricken loss.
Oh yeah, and throw in some a little pinch of guilt, and then a little smudge of the awkwardness of dealing with your parents, and man, you have this beautiful short.
There's a lot of realism to this short as well in terms of the way that grief is portrayed. Just because I've had a couple of friends whose siblings or relatives that they were extremely close to, like a sibling, pass away. Mm-hmm. And there were similar instances where the friend confided to me that, things that happened in the short also happened to them, and it was very, it hurt their heart.
Yeah.
Because
this felt like someone who'd suffered loss, like trying to process their own grief.
For sure. So start us off, Mr. Reno.
Yeah.
Tell us how we introduced this short.
Angela is our main character, and we open on a house, and the camera's behind Angela, and the house is lit up. So you kind of see this aura around Angela, almost this angelic aura of her like looking onto the house. And it's her in darkness and the house in light. And
it's starting to storm.
Yeah, and it's starting to rain, and it's kind of this metaphor of coming in out of the storm, stepping back into the light. After a loss, you go through a time where you're kind of moving through shadow. And then there's this weird, awkward part where you're trying to get back into the normal routine again. You're trying to go back to work like normal. You're trying to hang out with friends like normal. But it's not normal because this person who is an incredibly important part of your life is no longer there. And it's something that everyone has to come to. This idea that the world keeps moving after your own personal world has just shattered. Like everyone else's world still continues on. And I don't know. As usual, I'm probably reading too much into this opening shot, but that Angela in the darkness looking at the light with the aura around her hair, it just worked for me. And then we get our title, The Dinner After.
I love the script that it's written in.
Me too. I wrote that.
Fancy dinner script.
Fancy dinner script. Like you've been cordially invited to the worst dinner of your life. So then we get her. She goes to the door. You can already tell on her face. Good actress.
Hello,
that she's very anxious, and we get an awkward hello Moppet from her mom, and I'm like, okay, Moppet. I have not heard Moppet since Pirates of the Caribbean. Poppet.
Yeah.
I have not heard. Well, I've heard Moppet and Poppet in this exact thing. I feel like there's a P and an M that's interchangeable here.
Because I'm like deaf half the time. I turned subtitles on and it kept saying Poppet. Poppet.
Yeah. I saw Poppet. I also had subtitles on. I may have not seen Moppet. I may have just heard Moppet. But yeah,
your auditory dyslexia.
Yeah, very possible. But I haven't heard this since fucking Pirates of the Caribbean, which was also coincidentally the first time I ever heard the term.
Same.
Yeah.
Hello, Poppet.
But yeah, the mom is there and she's like, "Hello, Poppet," and she seems very sweet. And the dad comes down the stairs. He seems jolly enough. This seems like a normal parents and kind of a normal dinner, but you can tell there is an awkwardness there.
Well, prior to the father descending the stairs, it takes a quick turn. You know, mom greets her, and she's like, "Oh, hello, she's a little kind of
overly chirpy,
yeah,
like
she's
little
nervous talking.
Yeah,
you know?
nervous, happy, like. And
she's like, "I'll go get your father." And Angela has a little time in the hallway. She looks at a picture clearly of her and
question
sister,
mark, yeah,
you know, family member, whatever.
Yeah.
And Dad comes down the stairs like, "Oh, hey, darling, how's my favorite girl? Or how's my girl?
Yeah,
she's all right." You know, it's just awkward. It's a very awkward interaction.
It is. But yeah, you see all these pictures on the wall, including one that Angela dwells on. That's a picture of her with her arm around another dark-haired girl who we will find as Lauren, her sister. I also noticed that at this point, the mom does not use Angela's name at all.
Just calls her Poppet repeatedly.
Yeah, repeatedly.
Or darling.
Yeah. Dad, on the other hand, occasionally says Lauren, which Angela let slide the first time. It happens. She's like, okay,
Like, well, okay, well, let's go have dinner.
Yeah. Oh, they do mention that they've had to cancel multiple times. Well, and when they say they, we mean Angela has canceled multiple times on this. And
I mean, sure, say we didn't think you were going to show.
Yeah, we weren't sure you'd show up this time. And she's like, well, I still needed more time. And they start to try and breach the subject, and Angela's like, no, I don't want to talk about this.
Let's go have dinner.
Let's just go have dinner. Yeah, let's be a normal family is the term that keeps using. Angela straight up says, can we not?
And so they're sitting at the dinner table. This is a quick little shot, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Dad, Angela's sitting there kind of just looking out at the rain. Dad comes up with glasses and a bottle of wine, like a precious bottle of wine. He's like, normally we would have saved this, but for a special occasion.
Yeah, well, it's sort of like a little joke. He's like, normally we would only use this on special occasions, and then kind of gives her a little wink, like this isn't a special occasion. It's your typical dad joke. Yeah.
And this is the first time where dad kind of fucks up in the talk, where he's like, well, I got you this, pulled out this sweet red, I know it's your favorite, and she's like, not mine.
Yeah.
But thank you.
Yeah.
He pours her a cup and she downs it.
But you get this small weird stain from the wine after she sets it down.
Yeah, like it dribbles out of the bottom of the glass.
Yeah, like, it looks like spreading out. Like a little blood clot. I'm sure that was a coincidence.
And she's just like, as she's looking at the wine spreading, kind of like in a blood stain fashion. You kind of hear auditory noises in the background as she starts zoning out before Mom pops into the screen saying, "Dinner's ready!"
Yeah. It kind of like shakes her back into reality. She says, "I made your favorite," and she sets it in front of Angela, and Angela just gives it a look that's very non-committal. It's not oh, I'm disgusted, but it's also not a, yay, my favorite. It's just a very deadpan look. And the mom and dad start eating down, and they're talking about it like, "Oh, your chicken, it's your favorite. Like, man, you used to fucking."
I love how the mom's like, the dad's like, "Oh, it smells great." Mom goes, "Well, let's just hope it tastes as good as it smells." I was like, "Oh, come on, moms, have a little bit of confidence."
Right.
But
she's not eating. She's just looking at it,
sitting there, and they're starting to chow down a little bit. And Dad, as she's like in this daze, Dad is saying something, and then she finally snaps out of it because he says, "You haven't even touched your plate, Lauren."
Yeah.
She's like, "What'd you call me?"
This is the second time that this name, because he calls her that in the hall too, and she lets it go. And this time she's getting ready to let it go again, but what he says is he asked her to pass the salt. So, "Lauren, could you pass the salt?" And she's like, "What did you say?" He's like, "The salt." Like it happens again later too, where she says, "What did you say?" And he says the unimportant part, not the part that he missaid her name.
Because she wasn't even talking to him.
Yeah. And then Mom is like, "Oh, you've hardly touched your chicken." And the dad's like, "Yeah, there's a time when the plate wouldn't have even got set down. Yeah. And he's like, "It's your favorite." And she's like, "It's not my favorite food."
Well, she emphasizes it's not my favorite.
Yeah, it's not my favorite.
It was Lauren's.
It was Lauren's. And she's like, "I'm a vegetarian." And they're like,
when did this happen? Yeah.
She's like, "I've always been a vegetarian." And the mom's like, "I think I know my own daughter." Like, she's telling her you're not a vegetarian, which I thought was fucking hilarious. I had a little chuckle outside.
But it's so realistic, because how many times have kids told their parents, "Oh, I'm vegan, I'm vegetarian," or like, I'm non-denominational religion of some kind.
Like, "No, you aren't. We went to church 15 years ago," and it's like, yes,
stuff like that. Yeah,
shit changes. Yeah, it was very realistic and also very funny,
in the vein of realism. So I was like, "Oh boy, here we go. This is what's going to start spiraling." And then they just keep calling her Lauren.
Yeah,
next.
And Angela is like, "It's okay. I'll eat around the chicken, and I'll eat the potatoes." And she's like, "Oh, these potatoes are good, Mom. Like, what did you put in them?" Mom
starts just breaking down in tears.
She's crying, and Lauren's like,
Angela.
No, Lauren. Angela's like, "It's okay. It's okay. It's not a big deal. I told you, it's not a big deal." And she's like, "It's not that. It's just everything's fucked."
She's like, "No, the dinner's fine. I'm not talking about the fucking dinner."
Yeah, she just curses, and you did not expect this sweet little mom to drop an F-bomb, but she sure does. And this is an interesting point too, because Angela tries to talk to Dad, like, "Oh, so how are things at work?" Like, tries to just take the focus off Mom completely. Like, Angela does not want to deal with this at all.
Zero confrontation.
Mom is obviously breaking down about Lauren, which Angela does not want to address at all. So she immediately goes to Dad, like, "Oh, how's work?" And he's like, "Oh, it's funny you ask." And then, boom, he just, like, he had a hand on the table, just slams his head into the plate. And I'm like, fuck.
Lifts his face back up, and he's got a giant crack across his skull.
This jump scare got me. Like, the way it just happened so suddenly. And he comes up, and he's got a huge gash on his forehead, and he's just bleeding, but he keeps talking.
It reminded me, I don't know if you've seen this movie, but Hereditary?
Yes.
So the scene in Hereditary where the kid is at the school desk and he all of a sudden starts smashing his face into the desk over and over. It reminds me of that quick just like snap.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck, what just happened?
Oh, it was so good. Yeah. And then Dad is going to continue talking about work like nothing happened. And like Angela's like, are you okay? And then Mom's like, why did you keep canceling? Why did you keep canceling on us?
I wasn't ready yet.
Yeah,
I just wasn't ready to come see you.
And then you get the bomb drop that like, well, why weren't you at the funeral? So Angela did not go to the funeral, which we will understand when we realize how much guilt's involved here.
Yeah.
But it also is more of Angela not facing this. And this death is going to ride her until she can look at it. And that's what we get in this short, is her finally facing this and admitting that it's like destroyed her inside. But she's not there yet. At this point, her parents are, whew. Her dad fucking calls her Lauren again, and this time she flipped shit.
Angela, not Lauren.
Yeah. Ooh. Yeah.
And he's just like, what did I say?
Yeah. Yeah.
With a giant bleeding gash. Yeah. He's like, what did I say?
Oh, what did I say? It's like, well, you obviously have suffered a brain injury because you said Lauren for the 100th time. And this is where we get the conversation that Angela has had with herself a million times. Her dad starts asking, oh, well, do you ever feel guilty? Like, maybe if you hadn't decided to take a drive with your sister to get away from the folks for a few hours. Maybe if you hadn't driven so fast. Maybe if this.
If you would have hit that curve just a little bit slower, stop sooner.
Yeah, he's hitting all the things that I'm sure Angela... Like, Dad is playing the role of Angela's guilt here. And just hitting her with all those questions. And
I think at one point, Mom straight up says, like, it should have been you.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the funny part, because she says, it should have been you. At the same time, Dad's saying, like, I like these potatoes. And she's like, what did you say? And he says, I like these potatoes.
She's like, no, not you.
Not you.
Mom, what did you just say?
Yeah.
She's like, the wrong fucking kid died. It should have been you.
Yeah, fuck. Yeah, this is stuff she said 1,000 times to herself. And now her parents are reflecting it back to her. And it's funny because when she says it to herself, she probably just lets herself beat herself up. But when her parents are saying it, she can actually fight back a little and be like, that's not fair. But then her forehead starts bleeding. Yeah,
her hairline starts bleeding and she goes to like stand up to get away and she gets like hit by an invisible force.
Well, she comes in.
She goes to try and walk away from the table.
She walks away from the table and she sees all the I love this scene. All the pictures in the living room that were family pics are now pictures of the wreck.
Yeah.
And when she sees the one in the car, it throws her back.
No, she opens the door and the car, it looks like when she opened the door, it looked like a car came through the door and hit her.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And it just jolts you.
Yeah, she goes flying against the wall.
Yeah.
And now she's in the storm. And now she's in the wreck.
She's upside down in the car. Like, the car, she's like flat on her back. She's bleeding. There's glass everywhere. And now you see her sister, Lauren, that has passed away the night that they were in the wreck.
Yeah.
And Lauren's like, what's going on? What happened? Where are we?
And Lauren says, what did you do? Yeah. And then, God, so now Lauren is also throwing this guilt on Angela. And then, of course, then she goes fucking demon mode.
What did you do to me?
Yeah. And Angela's like crawling out of the car, and this Lauren demon, her face is changed into this like hate-filled mask, and she's crawling after Angela. And she says, you can try and murder me all you want. I'll keep coming back. And it's the same thing. Like, murdering her is forgetting her. Murdering her is trying to push this down and pretend it didn't happen. They always say, like, you die two deaths, right? You die once when you die, and you die the second time when the last person who knew you were alive passes away.
When you're forgotten.
Yeah, when you're forgotten. And this is what Lauren is forcing Angela to face. It's like, you can't forget this. You can't let this go. And they fucking... yeah, forgetting trauma doesn't work. You have to face trauma. You have to deal with trauma. And they end up in a fucking, much like the Collector, in a fucking fight. Out here in the storm. Like, Lauren is choking Angela. Angela flips it, choking Laura. Like,
grabs a piece of broken glass.
And, shoves it.
She gets ready to, like, raise it up to stab her sister with. And she's just like, Please,
I
Angela.
just want to go home. And Angela's like, Lauren can't go home again. And again, like the death has hit her. Like Lauren can never go home.
And then the demon
and you're not Lauren.
Demon Lauren lets out a screech, and then Angela immediately just silences it with a shake.
By stabbing her past, she is embracing her grief finally. And then she starts crying, and she gets up and she starts walking, and then she's back at the house. So it's this shot again, the opening shot again of her at the home.
That's actually a scene that I wanted to point out.
Please do.
So when the trauma encounter, she's literally facing her trauma, is going on,
Mm-hmm.
the scenery is lit with a red light behind her.
Yes.
The red light, in most movie tropes, horror movies especially, red indicates danger,
Rage, hell.
Yes.
Like, there's lots, yeah.
And so when she leaves the red light, you notice that she steps out of red into a soft green light, which means green is the
healing.
You can go forward.
Yeah, it's a healing light. And
Red
it does mean go. Yeah.
Red is you have stopped your progress.
Mm-hmm.
You are not letting go.
Mm-hmm.
Green is that you have finally let go. You've come to terms and you can move forward. Just like a stoplight.
Yep.
Just like a stoplight.
Yep, absolutely.
And
you got the healing light.
I love the glow of the green behind her as she walks back to the house, all cut up and bloodied and bruised. She walks back into the house. Mom and Dad are just still sitting there eating dinner.
And she sits down, still all fucked up. She's soaking wet. She's got cuts all over her face. She looks like she just stepped out of the wreck. She sits down. Her parents look up. And they're like, are you okay? It cuts back to her and she's back to normal. Like, she's dry. She looks like she looked when she first got there. Yep. And you realize that none of that stuff happened. It was all in her head. And she says, no. Cut to black. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm crying here. Yeah. Oh.
And this...
because now they can go through it together as a family. The healing can actually begin. Like...
She had to mentally resolve it with herself. While being in front of her parents, she was having this internal conflict.
Yeah.
And, all that we saw was her battling with herself. Do I finally tell my parents that I'm not okay? And the reason why I've been gone is because I can't handle it.
Do I finally face this thing I've been trying to hide all this time? God damn. Tore me up.
Yeah.
Tore me up.
It really hit. I was like, Jesus Christ, man.
Yeah. This thing's only
12 minutes.
9 to 12 minutes long, and it just, you are on a roller coaster ride. From the eeriness at the beginning with the parents to the wreck and the fighting her sister to this part at the end where you're just like, oh my God, I'm
every actor in this
spot on. Yeah,
I gotta give credit.
Shout out.
They all fucking.
Everyone nailed their part.
Off.
Oh my God.
They all did their part just sometimes when you watch these things, you're like, oh, that was the weak link,
Yeah.
So even in movies, big time movies, you're like, that person's acting is the weak link.
Yeah.
This one, I say every person nailed their spot.
Oh yeah, yeah. This is probably this might have bumped to the top as my new favorite short that we've covered. It's definitely just It was heartbreaking. It was scary. It was just eerie. The scene with the dad slamming his head on the table and then acting normal, that was so fucking creepy. I had my hair was standing up. But that was our short. I'm glad you felt similarly that I did.
For me, it's always great whenever you can get something with horror to make you feel feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And throughout our lives, whether you've dealt with it now or you will someday, the idea of how you handle the grief of loss and the way that you move past the trauma of it, whether you were directly involved or you were just somebody you lost that you were close to.
Yeah.
You still have to accept and move past it. And for some people, they never can. Yeah. They never can.
You can't bury it. You can't ignore these emotions. And you gotta face them. And man, this is a masterclass on how to show that ride in film, or in a short even. Just a masterclass. So good.
I think this one, for me personally, you didn't know it at the time, but when you sent it, you were just sending a horror short. This one struck a little bit harder for me.
No.
Because there was a friend of mine that I lost in a car accident.
Oh, no.
And I wasn't in the car, but I was supposed to be in that car when it happened.
Which gives you survivor's guilt.
Yeah,
as a rule.
and
Yeah.
I also was able to see a projection of my friend who was in the car that lived through the car accident.
Yeah.
And it just makes me think about the events of that week when we all were finding out the details. And, you know, it's one of those things that happened back when we were seniors in high school. And it was just the beginning of senior year. Like, so summer had started, school hasn't started for senior year yet, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to omit the names just for anonymity, but...
yeah, of course.
Friend A and friend B were supposed to come pick me up that night. We were supposed to go to a person's house to, you know, hang out, go party. It was the beginning of summer.
Yeah.
Friend A had just graduated. They were a senior before us. They were a grade ahead. And they decided that they were going to make a second stop at one of friend A's friends' houses out in the country to go, you know, pick up other people before they came and got me.
Yeah.
And them making that decision, one, saved me, but at the same time put them in the crosshairs of where they were.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, when they were driving down a back road, a Schwann's ice cream truck ran through a four-way stop. Or not even a four-way stop. Like, it was a highway where they had the right-of-way, and there was 2 stop signs on opposite side.
Yeah.
You see it all the time on these back roads.
Mm-hmm.
And it ran through it. Because it was late at night, they didn't think anything of it, and unfortunately plowed into my friend's vehicle.
Oof.
And friend A reached over and protected friend B with his body, and it helped prevent friend B from dying. And he was fucked up pretty bad.
Of course.
He was concussed. He had glass all in his head. His arm was broken in 2 places. His ear was half hanging off. And the doctor straight up told him after he woke up, you know, like, if it wasn't for friend A, you wouldn't be here. Like, he used his body as a shield. And I think the hardest part about that is that, you know, when he woke up, he knew that they were in an accident, and he immediately got up. And he ripped his IVs out of his arm and started running around the hospital screaming, you know, where's friend A, where's A, where's A, where's A? And they had to sit him down
and tell him
what happened. And it was a hard time for a lot of us in our friend group. And
of course.
It was one of these things where, you know, like, I didn't know what survivor's guilt was at the time. I just knew that I was waiting all night for the phone call that they were coming to pick me up, and I feel guilt in the sense that I remember being upset with them for.
Yeah.
I thought they ditched me.
Yeah.
I thought they ditched me, and, you know.
Yeah, you didn't. Yeah.
It was.
You were a high schooler and you didn't know what was going on.
No, I just assumed the worst. I thought I was, you know, getting ditched, and I just had bad thoughts, and I regret those thoughts, knowing what I knew the day after.
Yeah.
And I don't even think it was the day after. I think it was almost 2 days later we finally found out what happened.
Jesus.
I was at another friend's house that I'd stayed the night at, and I woke up to the news. I got a phone call from a mutual friend that said, "Hey man, are you sitting down?" and told me the situation. I was like, "Wait, that's why they never called me?" And so it was hard. It was like I wasn't even in the car, and it was hard to come to terms with. Yeah. And, you know,
you can't. Yeah,
it changed my friend's psyche who did survive.
Oh yeah.
So seeing the way that Angela was, to me, it struck a chord because it just reminded me of how friend B acted after the death. And he withdrew from everybody. Yeah. Like, unfortunately, after the funeral service and the memorial party we had for friend B, he really withdrew, and he pretty much cut everybody off that was his friend. He moved away. Yeah. He moved to Wilmington, where he didn't know anybody. Yeah. And I hadn't heard anything about him for a long time. Last time I heard anything, he was living his lifelong dream of building skate parks. So, yeah. I mean, it was just a lot, and a lot of us that were held together by this one friend. We didn't realize this one friend was a linchpin for so many small groups of people that would never interact. Yeah. But after his death, a lot of us kind of just parted. Yeah. This short really reminded me of that time of life where, you know, I saw a metaphorical reflection of that friend and the way that he held on to that guilt. Like, he somehow blamed himself. Like, well, if friend A wouldn't have protected me, you know, we both would have died, or we both would have been okay. You don't know. Yeah. You don't know because of how bad it was. Yeah. And so, I don't know, man. It's just, it's one of those things where horror sometimes gets it right and they nail something on the head. And, like I said, you didn't know this at the time, and I didn't mean to get super serious and sad about it.
No,
it's something that I connected to a real life incident that I don't talk about a lot with people unless we're trying to discuss the experiences of death.
It's not the kind of thing that comes up in polite, normal conversation, right?
Yeah.
It's the kind of thing you can only talk about in situations like this. So, I, for one, am glad that you did bring it up, because I think for people listening who watched this and got a similar feeling, because, I haven't had something that close to what happened here, but I've definitely had people very close to me pass away. And I definitely went through these similar feelings, because survivor's guilt it's a thing that can hit people that even if somebody gets cancer and passes away, survivor's guilt can happen. Anyone that's still left behind.
Yeah.
But yeah, to have something, I feel like it was good that you told that story, because there are people who watch this short from the same position that you watched it from, or similar.
Like I said, for the longest time, I didn't know what the survivor's guilt of it was. I didn't know that's what I was experiencing. I thought I was just being fucking childish and selfish and somehow making a tragedy about me.
Yeah, which is not.
I wasn't trying to do that, but I did have some people that I'm no longer friends with that did accuse me of that, and I was just trying to be like, no, I'm not trying to take away from the family's grief.
No, this is just the horrible thing I'm feeling.
Yeah, it's just I feel like I should have been there too, because that was the original plan, and if they hadn't changed plans, I would have been in that car too.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where it's not quite the same as Angela, but it is to an extent something
there are enough parallels that you really felt it. Yeah. And I think to anyone who has suffered loss,
it just made me think of that friend who survived. It just really made me think of them.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a good short for anyone that has suffered loss, or anyone that has not and would like a preview of how horrible it's going to be. But yeah, that'll do it for Junk Talk. We will see you at the beginning of next month for Cabin in the Woods. Until then, so long, folks.